Tom. Thank you, Carl. It's a great pleasure. I want to be here. Thank you, everyone, British Computer Society, Carl, for the invitation. So, let's talk about audio therapeutics. It'll be the evolution of sound as medicine. My story rewinds to early 90s. Prior to that, orchestral cellists, guitarists and pianists in more classical domain discovered synthesizers, and that was it. There was no turning back at that point. Also loved listening to electronic music in the 80s and then dancing to electronic music. Found a gentleman by the name of Richard James in a nightclub in Cornwall playing music on audio cassettes, his own music. It was like nothing I'd ever heard. He completely inspired me to understand how to make and create music using computers and synthesizers. This is back in 1989. Since then, I've released quite a number of albums under my own name, under the name Global Communication, with my former artistic partner, Mark Pritchard, now based in Australia, and then solo. And throughout that journey, I was fascinated by the power of sound and music. I remember one particular moment going to the house of Richard James in Cornwall, noticing that he suspended speakers in his room from the ceiling with cables. This is an 18-year-old looking at the future of spatial audio back then. Also, we looked at where there was an opportunity to explore and experiment with the current state of the art. I remember him taking the lid off a Japanese synthesizer called a Roland SH101. With a small screwdriver, he changed the factory preset frequency range from human perception hearing, 20 hertz to 20 kilohertz, into the realms of infrasonic, subsonic frequencies, so down to 1 hertz, up into ultrasound. I could watch the speaker cones moving, sat listening to these pulses or perceiving them. That was our very first experiment with binaural beats. We didn't even know what we were doing. And flying up into the realms of ultrasound, bats would bang at the window, dolphins would start screaming, and dogs would run away. Through my career, I've sort of loved playing music as a form of entertainment, but also found this sort of social responsibility to use sound and music in a way that uplifted, maybe expanded consciousness to state change, if you like. This album, 7614, celebrating 30 years now, a lot have said it's a pioneering work in ambient music. We removed the track titles to give the listener the opportunity to close your eyes. Where does it take you? We invited feedback. We had soldiers on manoeuvres writing handwritten letters saying thank you. This has really helped support me on my journey. It was being used for therapy, giving birth to. I've met children that have said to me, if it wasn't for that album, I wouldn't be here. I'll leave that to your imagination as to what this album is capable of doing. It's been a very interesting journey to go from creating sound in an environment that was very much non-urban. This was recorded in a small studio overlooking a field near Yeovil in Somerset. So our immediate environment was nature sound, if you like. We loved techno dance music at that time, myself and Mark. We'd go clubbing, listening and researching. But this was a reaction, if you like, the antithesis to that banging club movement at the time. Ambient project. Also inspired by the likes of Brian Eno, Vangelis, Jean-Michel Jarre, Steve Reich and others. Moving on to 2007, it occurred to me that beyond the dance floor, perhaps there was a use case for music and sound to soundtrack life tracks, to help with mood elevation, stress reduction, helping you with your focus and flow state, and to inspire creativity. And it made me think that there was a shift going on between what I was doing, observing empirically in environments like nightclubs and festivals, to this other setting, which was allowing people to use music functionally, intentionally. I've been very fortunate to millions around the world observing this positive effect of sound and music, and it really dawned on me that there was more to just entertainment. I got very burnt out, total circadian disruption from, imagine, doing a gig in Los Angeles, flying over to Melbourne, up to Tokyo, across to Dubai, over to Paris, back to London, and then over to New York, repeat. It's enough to make anyone not want to do that kind of thing as a DJ. So had to kind of quit that and decide, right, let's reevaluate. What I've noticed is that sound and music is useful. There's a service opportunity here. What can we do with it? I then completely pivoted and became a sound architect for a hotel in New York, looking at the guest journey. Can we support their jet lag? Can we help them in a room overcome what's called first night effect, where your ears, you don't have earlids, you can't switch them off without earplugs. So exposure to sound triggers a very, very ancient response, which is that of, are we going to be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, bear or wolf? So all these new environments trigger us, and it's very interesting to think about all these little challenges that we have as human beings and what can we do to solve them, perhaps using sound and music. So I developed soundscapes for guest well-being, delivered through screens in the room, and then starting to integrate light into this as well. I started thinking about multisensory. Could we use scent? Could we spatialize sound? So in 2016, created what I believe was the first spatial audio, reset mode, taking a tiny little room, a space that was never really used for anything other than storage, and turning it into a sound sauna or multisensory sort of sauna. And that became very, very popular. I've become very obsessed with sleep. I retrained as a sleep science coach and thought, well, if the music we were making in the early 90s was helping people to rest and recover, what is going on in that music that's allowing people to feel relaxed? What is triggering that parasympathetic response? So I started going deeper into all of the modalities of music, rhythmic entrainment. If you listen to a pulse lower than your natural resting heart rate, you'll start to synchronize with it. This is a beautiful trick. One of the tools of a functional music producer. Slow it down, lower than heart rate. You can start to reduce resting heart rate. You can activate the parasympathetic response. You can even reduce cortisol and bring down blood pressure. So it's a very powerful tool. I thought, well, what else can we do? You've got this technology that people are addicted to, screens that are delivering the wrong wavelengths of light. What if we turned it into a simulated sunset, only using the red-orange wavelengths of light? Then you pop the phone down, you listen to the music. In that 1 hour of opportunity to allow you to get a greater sleep opportunity, we down-regulate you, and the screen fades to black, and the music, I've faded it out for you. I've thought about this journey where, I have to get up and then turn the music off. No, we turn it down for you. And this has started my whole journey into functional music. What else can we do with it? I've been fascinated with all these environments, hospitality, in spaces of innovation where we can start to talk about, can we leverage sensory design for wellness outcomes? And one of the things I'm particularly interested in is noise and quiet. And given that life is very, very noisy, part of the problem we've got is the fact that our nervous systems are constantly being triggered and elevated into a sort of state of fight or flight. And because of that, we're very anxious, very nervous, there's more cortisol in our system, and therefore it's very difficult to switch off. So what can we do? Well, apart from looking at the built environment and being more mindful about acoustic treatments, can we replace with healthier sound? Set up a project called White Mirror with my partner, Ryan Yalnagar, looking at this, I suppose, fusion of the senses, science, art, technology, and framing it very much in nature. What can we learn from nature? We work with a neuroscientist in Lisbon, and we've built a sort of sensory innovation lab production setup between London and there, using the latest sort of technology in being able to measure, test, and validate. We're very interested in proving a hypothesis. All this stuff that intuitively I was creating in the studios in the 90s, well, now it's about time we get into the lab and get under the hood, see if it's really working. Can we actually create more value by testing and validating it? Our principles are based on empathy, nature, research evidence, and this lovely word, salutogenesis. Aaron Antonovsky came up with this idea of the trajectory towards health and well-being, and I love this because I think this is the antithesis of pathogenicity. Not putting sticking plasters over symptoms, but building environments, looking at designing things that are specifically intended for a positive health outcome. We believe that empathy, trying to alleviate human suffering is the foundation of what we're doing here. This is our purpose, our mission. Nature obviously inspires us a great deal, and evidence and rigorous research is one of the foundational pillars. We're in this world of wellness, which seems to have moved from the spa environment of the 80s and the jacuzzi into a very interesting space where you've got these dimensions, physical, social, occupational, medical, financial, environmental, emotional, intellectual, and spiritual, and an ecosystem that we tend to explore, which is wearables, spaces, experiences, and technology. This is a very interesting slide, and whenever I show this, people kind of faces hit the floor because it's astonishing to think that I've come from a sector where the music industry for entertainment is worth 25.9 billion, and then you look at gaming and advertising, and then hold on a minute, what's this? Wellness. Surely this is indicative of the fact that we're suffering as a species, and there is a market here to help people. This is how the market is sort of split up. This comes from the Global Wellness Institute, and it's very interesting to look at the potential opportunities for those creators looking to impact and deliver value. Let's jump in the TARDIS and head back. 37,000 BC. Where does all this come from? Sound healing, therapeutic sound and audio. Well, think about Neanderthals and their first expression of making noise, making sound, blowing through a hollowed out bone. And what was that doing? Well, if you think about flutes and wind instruments, it's basically training yourself in the art of breath work. So throughout many cultures, the art of breathing has been used on chanting. Again, it's a type of breath work. And prolonged exhale, we know now scientifically, helps to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. We think about, shaman and tribal rituals. Across multiple cultures, there was a use case for entrainment. Pulse the beat of the drum would shift you from different states according to the need of the tribe or the individual at that moment. We need to take you into a sort of more receptive state for healing through herbs, or do we need to activate you and take you into a state where you're more receptive to transcendence, connection? Drumming circles, again, multiple cultures use this as a way to connect socially, but also to get into these altered states of trance. If we go to look at Egypt, one of the first cultures to really start to utilize frequencies, sound, music, and harmony. These things here, sistra, were the only instruments allowed into the king's chamber. We can have a quick pause here. My other obsession is archaeoacoustics, and thank you to Carl for priming that one. I've been fascinated with the Great Pyramid, and in particular, this one room inside, the King's Chamber. And back in 2021 with Carl, we went and did some experiments to sort of find out what others had discovered. And by lying down in the sarcophagus, we could call it sarcophagus, but I think there are other hypotheses for what this space box could be. This is rose quartz. It's already vibrating. There was a very intentional reason for the placement of this. If you think about it, there's nothing ornate about it. There's no gilding, there are no objects in here. It's a very interesting space because why would you bury a deity in this kind of space? To me, it wasn't that at all. This was a device, a technology, a vibrational, resonant technology. So hopefully this will come out through the speakers, but you'll hear some sounds in a minute. Many have studied the acoustic properties, and if you look at this line here at the bottom in yellow, this is a frequency based on the resonant properties of the space. And we came back and discovered that it's 117 hertz, which is a very interesting frequency. Clearly an intentional frequency, because if we look at the bottom here, now, Chichen Itza, Kukulkan, another pyramid. Now, they are quite a long way away from each other and built at different eras. That is very interesting to me, that there is some intentionality around the structural, architectural building of these spaces and why. So unpacking that, decided to try and find the tone. And theoretically, you'll be able to hear the resonance because it starts to amplify. This is me in the sarcophagus. almost effortless. I was lying down and basically just exhaling very, very gently through my lips, but the standing waves within the sarcophagus were amplifying this effect. The entire space started to resonate. Then joined in a group, including Carl and Joe Crossley, who was here last year presenting, and enjoyed an experience of chanting together, rewinding back in time, celebrate moments together. Very, very, very profound space. Interesting things to unpack around that. That's probably a whole day in itself, archaeoacoustics. Moving on to this gentleman, the music of the spheres, Pythagoras and his inventions of using harmonic principles, dividing strings up in order to create what he believed was a therapeutic modality, healing through resonance and vibration. Gregorian monks, again, exhaling very specific tones and frequencies, utilised for, again, and particularly given the fact that the architecture with which the acoustic spaces that they chanted in, again, express very, very interesting Pythagorean geometry. This is a very interesting slide for me. Let's have a look at the word happy, the word music, and the word medicine. Confucius said, music produces a kind of pleasure which human nature cannot do without. That to me is fascinating, that these symbols are representative of something very similar. They seem to work together. Hippocrates said, music is the medicine of the mind. Hazrat Inayat Khan, devotee of Sufism, the science of the future will be based on sympathetic vibration. Einstein, medicine will be the medicine of frequencies. Tesla, if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration. Casey, the medicine of the future will be music and sound. Moving forward, we've got a number of many. I could, again, have unpacked this in a great deal of other eminent experts in this field, each contributing to this new field of exploring the possibility of sound as a therapeutic, potentially healing modality, whether it's crystal bowls, Tibetan bowls, Dr. Emoto and his work with the crystallization of water and focusing specific intentions on that water, praying if you like, and the manifestation of beautiful symmetry when there was a positive intention, and saying something like, I hate you, directed at this water, created a horrible shape. There's something in that, the intentionality of how you speak to or project frequency and intention. John Bewley and his tuning forks, Dr. Jeffrey Thompson and biotuning systems, going into detail into human beings' potential to have their own resonant frequency, because we're all different shapes and sizes. And Fabien Maman, who developed the Tamado system of vibrational sound therapy, looked at what happened when sound and resonance impacted cells, and seeing a shift in colour and structure by, again, using vibration and resonance. So, where are we with audio therapeutics now? These are some of the things that I find fascinating. We're at a state now where different parts of the frequency spectrum are being utilised in a very powerful way. Hyper-focused ultrasound to literally reduce and destroy tumours, in this case in the prostate. Incredible. There's a team that are working on utilising types of ultrasound. For example, here with Dave Asprey, he's just been experimenting with and opening up the blood-brain barrier to allow stem cells into the hypothalamus. Now, this I find fascinating, that we're now moving into a realm where all types of new techniques and therapies are being enhanced, or doors are being opened, utilising the power of vibration, sound and frequency. With things like bone regeneration. Who knew that cats can actually regenerate bones just by purring? So, the frequencies of humming and purring. Potentially there's some technology or science to be explored with that. Low frequency, infrasonics. Dr. Andrew Huberman is a big proponent of the entrainment using 40 hertz frequency for cognitive performance enhancement. So these really inspire me. All these individuals have impacted me and made me want to kind of learn more. I began a master's at Goldsmiths, the Music, Mind and Brain department in psychology, trying to unpack a little more about what I've been discovering and researching, and to help frame it within an academic or scientific context. So some lovely words here: psychoacoustics, bioacoustics, and vibroacoustics. Psychoacoustics is how we hear and perceive sound, how it affects cognition, behavior, and emotional responses. Bioacoustics is the research on sound production, transmission, and reception in animals. And vibroacoustics is how we feel sound, how it's perceived through our bodies and various other mediums. Now, that combination kind of frames my interest these days. Where do I want to go with it? There's also this lovely world of acoustic ecology pioneered by Bernie Krause, which is this relationship between all beings within the world that we're in. And if we start at the bottom, geophony are nature sounds, elemental sounds, earth, wind, fire, if you like, wind and water, foundational to the environment. Then we've got biophony, which is non-human but living organisms, crucial to the ecosystem communication. And then anthropophony, this lovely word, human-made sounds. If they're intentional, we could say they might be music. If they're unintentional, noise pollution, which obviously impacts health and ecosystems. And I've been looking at these, if you like, parallels between pharmacological interventions and non-invasive audio-sensory interventions. Is there a case for audio hypnotics, sounds and music to aid sleep, or audio analgesics, sounds and music to help reduce the perception of pain, audio anxiolytics to alleviate anxiety, and audio nootropics to help boost cognitive function and performance? So I'm going to run through a few examples of the kind of work we do at Whiteberry. With audio hypnotics and music to aid sleep, as I said, I've been fascinated with this, hacking my own sleep after getting really burnt out. And maybe it is my redemption, keeping people up all night as a DJ, helping people sleep. There are various pillars of sleep wellness that I think can be augmented, particularly if we think about a mindful practice before you go to sleep, listening to sounds, preferably with your eyes closed, a very useful tool to help deliver that parasympathetic state. Written a chapter to help those in the music industry that are suffering on the road, to help them grasp some sleep hygiene pillars and learn some best practices. For Calm, we have some of the best performing sleep content. This is a great space for us to really understand what's working, what isn't. An app at this scale, that's millions of people. We kind of get an understanding. Is it sticky? Is it working? How can we improve it? So for us, it's fascinating to be able to work at this scale on this kind of content. Similarly, life. A new project, we looked at the world of noise, and specifically coloured noise. Now, a lot of people turn to white noise as a tool. I would say perhaps avoid that, maybe use nature-based white noise. So anything that's stochastic and natural, like water, waves, waterfalls, wind, rain, as opposed to the synthetic white noise, which to me, I think is not very good. And we did a study and found out that there's actually different colours of noise that you could actually merge together, and we are about to launch the world's most relaxing and calming noise. It fuses Brownian noise, brown but Brownian, based on Brownian motion, a bit of pink noise, and there's plenty of research to support pink noise and the fact that it's not the kind of noise that is triggering, but it helps to suppress and mask the unpleasant noise pollution in the world around you. Very excited to see how this helps people in their journey into sleep. also blends in what we could call green noise, which is the geophony of the world. So some elemental sounds are really helping. For sleep cycle, I basically spoke about various different things in the mind and your body, again, to help. And if we look at the impact, we've got some pretty significant numbers here. So it's exciting to be, I suppose, at the vanguard of delivering improved sleep just using the power of sound. For Nissan Leaf, a very interesting campaign. EVs don't have a sound per se. Combustion engine vehicles deliver the vibration that was sending parents to their cars to dream drive their infants to sleep. What could we do to help maybe reduce emissions, encourage parents to investigate EVs? We looked at exactly what's going on here in the frequency spectrum of, there we go. No, it's not going to allow me to do it. Thank you very much. Come on. There you go. Thank you. If you see the difference between these two slides, the low frequency vibrations are removed from this. This is an EV versus what we saw just now, which was a combustion engine vehicle. So isolating the frequencies from a combustion engine, we then created an orchestra and a soundscape based on these frequencies and vibrations that could then be replayed within an EV. So we found that this campaign was very successful in maybe making parents rethink their whole approach to driving. Forward to that. Pepsi, interestingly, this almost seems unusual for a company that produce a drink with a beverage with caffeine in it, have been exploring these sort of therapeutic functional beverages. So this is the antithesis to that, utilizing things like L-theanine and magnesium to assist sleep. So you start the day with one and you end the day with the other. With audio analgesics, looking at sounds and music to help reduce pain perception, I was brought into a company called Moon Eye, looking at menstrual pain and what can we do with sound and music to support this situation that ladies have once a month. That for some can be difficult to get to work, etc. Could we use sound and music as a way to mitigate some of this? We realised that distraction is a very interesting tool. So using binaural beats and binaural entrainment, not only could you downregulate the nervous system, but also provide a source of, if you like, respite from the pain. With XR Health, we looked at another problem. Breast cancer patients on chemotherapy, night sweats and hot flashes are a serious challenge. So working in an experiential augmented reality and virtual reality environment, creating a very cold feeling, increasing the perception of cold, started to mitigate this sensation of feeling hot. So you can see there's some incredible tools that we've got to change your perception utilizing just frequencies. With audio anxiolytics, to alleviate anxiety, we unpacked, by working with Spatial Sound Institute, what is the power of spatial audio that is yet to be really explored. And we discovered that in a more authentic spatial audio realm, you believe it, and therefore you're grounded in presence. So the key word here is presence. Spatial audio delivers more presence than normal stereo audio, which is a very powerful way of grounding you in the present and allowing you to truly focus and immerse. We created an album for sleep and pre-sleep anxiety, which is one of the fundamental problems. With Revonics, looking at the vagus nerve and how to very quickly and rapidly downregulate into a parasympathetic state. Literally breathing sound and music, very powerful. For Alternet, a very simple yet sneaky trick. Art at scale. We say, the world of neuroaesthetics and neuroarts, the Trojan horse is experiential, where you can go and expose yourself to something that you think is just art. Yet what we've done is really we've embedded a tool with which to help support your nervous system. We tested it in the lab with our technology in Lisbon and got some great results for this, which obviously helps to improve the next round of content. And as an experience itself, a lot of people really enjoyed it. learning a box breath technique, which is 4 in, a 4 hold, a 4 exhale, and another 4 hold. And to be able to, pop up Tottenham Court Road, wander in, learn a breathwork technique, and feel a little better. Amazing. Yeah. With audio nootropics, can we leverage the power of sound and music to boost cognitive function and performance, to induce states of focus, flow, and creativity? For a project coming out soon, I worked with Platoon as part of Apple Music and the team in Lisbon, and we utilised some technology, wearable technology, the Muse headset, and I learned how to leverage biofeedback in order to put my brain into a beta state.
Flow state is a state where, through sustained attention to the same task or stimuli and full engagement, and for engagement we understand emotional engagement, so cognitive sustained attention, emotional engagement, together you can achieve a state where you're not paying attention to anything else that is internal or external, and you put all your positive emotion to the task that you're having. So that's converted into neurophysiology metrics that we're using and capturing with the EEG and with the brain-computer interface would be high beta on the frontal area, that is the executive functioning, so sustained attention for a long time, and then higher alpha on the left hemisphere, that is a metric of engagement, emotional engagement. So if we can, on our experiment, find high beta on the frontal area and then high alpha on the left hemisphere, we could say that we're having a flow state of these two metrics combined.
So this is the team trialing this experiment. We're using what's called a low frequency oscillator and a visualization of frequency to make it easier to know, am I in this beta state? And if you look at the shape of the waveform here on screen, it made it a lot easier to create this sort of biofeedback loop where, whilst wearing the tech, you'd be able to focus and hear and see in real time the effect of that. And we think there's some very interesting.
We're not talking about like a classical.
Yeah, sometimes simplicity on one sound changing is what is more precise for people to understand. Okay, this is the brain actually changing. Yeah. If it's too many overlayers,
precisely,
people lose themselves. They don't know what is what.
From chaos, complexity to clarity.
Okay. Let me just see the senses. In a little bit.
What's lovely is that once you realise that as an artist, controlling your brainwave state, you can then control instruments and make music from brainwaves in real time. It allowed the process of iterating,
It's working.
using for focus by literally focusing.
Ignorance is bliss.
Okay, do you want to see it visually?
Yeah.
Because visually is like really helps you. Okay, let's try from the...
For Subpack, in a collaboration with Jaguar Land Rover, we looked at this new integration of vibroacoustic technology into the back of seats, where understanding that there's a number of problems that drivers experience, whether it's a need for greater engagement and vigilance and attention, or whether you're really stressed out and you need to relax. Ultimately, by creating environments that are allowing you to, I guess, respond dynamically to what's going on around you. It has to be safe, let's face it. We don't want to be distracted to the point where something bad could happen in a car. This was a lovely, lovely project to be working on, because ultimately we can now see future applications of felt sound. I'm just going to move forward a slide here. Stuck here. So different states, and within if you think of a car as a canvas, what can we do with it? Many cars now are building spatial audio experiences into them, and when it gets to a state of total autonomy, what will we do with that time in the car? Well, perhaps it could be a therapeutic treatment. We don't know at the moment. It's a kind of open book as to what we'll do with these spaces, but at least having an opportunity to deliver a well-being outcome, I think, is very positive. Our move, if you like, from unisensory into multi-sensory has been very exciting for us, because we start to then look at the canvas around us, the room we're in right now, a bedroom. What can we do within the guest environment or the domestic environment to augment health? Using, for example, vibroacoustic mattresses, using the power of wavelengths of light at the correct frequency in order to not inhibit melatonin and to not stimulate cortisol, for example. A recent experiment we did turned into a great project with Seren, which has just launched at the Emery Hotel, looking at the future of these therapeutic wellness spa environments. Vibroacoustic tables, and then building in things like photobiomodulation, near-field infrared, and chromatological lighting. Where else can we take this? We think that actually most of these environments tend to have very boring spa CDs that are on repeat and very fatiguing. So we developed a generative infinite surround soundscape platform in order to be able to create never-ending, never heard the same again twice soundscapes. Let's move this one forward. And this is probably the most exciting thing I've been working on, and particularly in the context of what we're talking about here. So generative AI systems, using algorithms, using humans as composers, but also working with technology, working with BCIs. Where can we take the technology that we're working with here? We feel this is probably the most exciting part of our research at the moment, being able to create hyper-personalized sonic environments that could be or could become. This gentleman, who I believe might have a promising career in tennis, has a project called Regenesis, and he wanted a pod that could help with sports performance optimization, recovery, and delivering states of flow and engagement. And for someone that is so obsessed with that extra 1% all the time, White Mirror have been brought in to look at sensory scripts, so merging these various different modalities together. Sound, felt sounds, vibroacoustics, flicker light technology, visuals, scent, experiential immersion. So merging the different senses together and looking at these scripts to define different states for elite athletes, and then ultimately bringing it and making it accessible to everybody. Looking at these lovely kind of environments where expressing what sound looks like using the power of cymatics in these different environments, whether they're art spaces or in fact they are maybe domestic. And finally, our biggest project today, working with Thermo Group Joseph Lund in Germany. There's 3 sites, and in one of them we were brought in to help create an extraordinary experience, partnering with Amazing Night Laser Feast and the Love Triangle, to deliver what's called Lapuna Virtual Forest Bathing Experience. So for those that may never get to travel to the Amazon and experience things like the Queen of the Night, a flower that blossoms for one night of the year only, the team went and filmed and LiDAR scanned trees and environments to create these beautiful immersive experiences where you literally walk in through a waterfall, you lay down on a giant lily pad that has vibroacoustic technology, you have the surround sound that captures the immersive feeling of being in the Amazon and delivering this extraordinary experience. Play it.
So when we started this journey, we were asking ourselves the question, how do we evolve art to sort of adapt to the way technology is changing society? We are getting more and more isolated, and we need new ways to reconnect.
We are big believers in experience as a medicine. It's a symposium of art, technology, and nature.
The technology is a window into dimensions of nature that you couldn't experience firsthand. We're able to take people on a journey that they can never have in a real forest.
At Thermegruppe Josef Wund, we always invest into the future. We have been at the forefront of building spaces for wellness for decades. We built huge environments with hundreds of palm trees, pool lagoons and saunas. Now, as technology evolves, the needs and expectations of our guests evolves as well. The future of well-being is about connecting humans, nature, and about immersive technologies.
Why combine technology with nature and not just make it nature itself? Nature is not as accessible to people as you would think. There's a huge percentage that has no access to nature. It's true that you would walk into nature and see certain things, but technology has this amazing way of making the invisible visible.
To create a digital wellness experience like this, we brought our internal teams in a collaboration with some highly recognized artists and designers.
Wund approached us with big dreams of doing an immersive experiences in one of their spas. They were really thinking big from the beginning. We're an artist studio that explore sort of unseen dimensions of reality. In essence, this piece is a multi-sensory immersion in a forest. A lot of these projects start with a moment of inspiration. We went over to the Amazon, we were exploring a number of different ecosystems and taking these portraits of trees. And there's this really stunning K-pop tree that's epic in scale, which we spent a number of days sampling with LiDAR scanners. When we got back to London, we spent quite a lot of time in Kew Garden. We were able to look at different specimens under much more controlled conditions in levels of detail that we weren't able to do in the jungle. We got to meet some people who've dedicated their whole lives to the Amazon and to certain species. Through those conversations, we honed in on a few core species. One in particular is called the Queen of the Night. It only opens for 1 day a year. It opens just after the sunset, and then it closes just before dawn, and that's it, one night. All of its energy, all of its concentrated allure and beauty into this one moment, in some ways metaphor for experiences that we have to face within our own lives. We 3D scanned the flower. We had to chop it into lots of little pieces and scan each individual petal, and then we reconstructed that in 3D. Part of the secret sauce for this project is exploring these dimensions that you can't just film, you can't just see them.
The technology that is being used is not to the forefront. It is there to support the journey and to support the narrative, support the engagement of the visitors, but it is not there for the purposes of being there. In this project in particular, it was our intention to really remember and make everybody aware that the physical world is important. And the physical world goes beyond the digital and goes beyond the two-dimensional. The physical world has senses, has scents, has humidity levels, has tactile feelings, has three-dimensional experiences that transcend the digital aspect.
When you bring science and arts together, you can design new ways of immersion that heal people.
This experience is deep relaxation, so it's drawing upon all of these qualities that exist within a forest, amplifying them, and immersing audiences in them in a way where they completely unwind.
We started thinking about the idea of experience as medicine.
The experiences are really giving you a benefit for your health, giving you a benefit for your body, for your mind, and this is what makes us and our experience unique.
Thank you very much. I hope prescriptive nature sound for any situation where you need to down-regulate. I hope it's been inspiring. Time.